Welcome to Union Station and on Iowa Live. Thanks for coming out, everybody. I hope everybody had a good off season. But we are back for our 14th season. Scott Docterman from The Athletic joins us again. And we've got a new guest over here. Sweet Lou Montgomery joins us. Yeah, Lou! Did you get that a lot when you played?
I did. I sure did. And I thought they were booing me at first when I first heard it. 80,000 people saying Lou. It actually sounds like boo. So they got me corrected pretty quick, Scott.
Lou is replacing Marv McNutt, who's coaching high school football down south. Lou played at Iowa and was a star fullback. He loves fullbacks. You'll find that out. From 88 to 92 on some of those great teams, played in the Rose Bowl. You had quite a career.
Yeah, I did. I was very fortunate to have a career at Iowa and play with some tremendous players. I tell you, guys like Nick Bell, Matt Rogers was our quarterback, Dana Hughes out at the right receiver position. And defensively, we had guys like Merton Hanks, Melvin Foster.
NFL stars.
Stars. So I feel real fortunate to be a part of that class that came through. And certainly to play for Coach Fry.
You know what tells me a lot about you? You were named the team captain your senior year, and that's special. That means they respected you.
Yeah.
That had to be a great time to do that, right?
Yeah, it really was. And you know, Coach Fry was very adamant about what he called bell cows, and I never knew what a bell cow was.
Yeah.
But he would come up with these funny sayings all the time, and he says, "I want you to be my bell cow." And I was like, "Bell cow?" You know, you just kind of go with the flow, right? Like, ha, 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 and I had no clue what it was. But certainly being named the team captain was an honor, and certainly being a Hawkeye is tremendous. So I feel really fortunate and blessed to have that.
You probably thought he was talking about Nick Bell because he was as big as a cow.
Yeah, he was.
All right, we'll talk some Iowa football now. We talked a little bit on our newscast, but Coach Ferentz suspended for the first game, and you talked about how that's a bigger deal than some people think.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, these players are resilient. They've gone through a lot. They certainly know all the coaching staff. Certainly having your head coach as that leader really makes a difference. But, you know, I think other coaches will step in. I think they'll do a fantastic job of stepping in during this time period when Coach Ferentz is away. But there's a little bit of a disconnect, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as people maybe make it out to be.
Scott, you broke this story. Were you surprised when you first heard of this news? I mean, he's been clean his whole career.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he got the suspension, but not surprised that they did what they did because it was kind of well known at that point, which is the way things are going in the transfer portal. I mean, there's a couple thoughts I have. One, I think this is going to have a galvanizing effect for these players. I mean, this is a team with tremendous leadership on both the offensive line and the defense. They're going to rally around the flag and rally around Kirk Ferentz and really be strong in his defense and each other, and it gives them a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, a little bit of swagger to them. I think that's going to be really helpful. And two is, the one thing I would caution Iowa against is don't slow down too much in the portal. Yeah. I mean, they got caught, but everybody else is doing it too. It's like I drove up 380.
That's my question. Okay, why is Iowa getting caught like at Colorado and some of these places where half the team are transfer portal guys? Why are they not getting caught?
Because loose lips sink ships, Scott.
Yeah.
Cade McNamara came out and started talking about how John Bunmeyer contacted him and that gets sent to the NCAA, and they're looking to catch speeders. If you're going 80 on 380 and somebody else is going 85, you can't tell the cop, well, he was going faster. You got caught, and that's kind of what happened here.
And this is an evolving situation. Some of these rules might change as years go on, and
probably not contacting before they hit the portal, but that's impermissible contact. But this is a strong case by Iowa. I will say this: you compare cases in the Big Ten, Michigan, and others. Yeah. Iowa came out strong, and Kirk Ferentz didn't try to blame anybody. He owned it. And I'll say this, that 16 other fan bases in the Big Ten rallied around Iowa last week.
Yeah. And I think too that if you're gonna put down any kind of restriction, you want to get a team like Iowa, particularly as you mentioned.
Use them as an example.
Use it as an example. And I think that was, if they're going to use anything, let's get Iowa, because like you said, Coach Ferentz has been squeaky clean up to this point. So maybe just an example for everyone else to pay attention.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch to the quarterback. Cade McNamara listed number 1 on the depth chart today. We talked about how long his rope is. Do you think that he's got some time to prove himself, or do you think that it'll be a quick out if he doesn't play well?
I think he'll play pretty exclusively on Saturday. I could see Brendan Sullivan getting some snaps if the outcome dictates that. But I think they're going to let him go with this. And part of it is, they want to shake off the rust and show confidence.
Yeah.
But then the other part is they kind of, without having Kirk there, without having John Budmeyer there, who's the wide receivers coach, they kind of need to have all the trains run on the time. They have a new offensive coordinator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can kind of stabilize the offense, and he wants to do a better job than last year. I mean, he completed 51% before his injury, so I think they're going to give him a shot. We'll probably reevaluate it, though, after the Iowa State game.
Because Brendan Sullivan has had a good spring, but at the same time, he probably is not as far up to speed as Cade is with this offense.
More so with his mental ability. I mean, Brennan is, he came in June, and Cade didn't start being able to work out until June. So, but Cade was able to grasp it in the meetings in the spring. Brennan is probably a slightly better fit for this offense.
Yeah.
But I think, they put a lot of equity into Cade McNamara, so they're going to let him go with this.
Lou, you saw Cade play, and the few times that he did play, and he proved it in Michigan how explosive he can be. What do you think of Cade McNamara?
Yeah, I think he's a great quarterback. I mean, I really think that he's a guy that can open up this offense. Particularly, we don't really know how this offense is going to function against someone other than their own players that they've been competing against. So I think Cade's got to open it up. I think, like you said, he's there's a huge investment that they've made in him in terms of just developing him. And when he went down with that injury, you could see the drop off a bit in talent.
Yeah.
And it really changed that dynamic of that offense. So it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back from this, and can he truly step up to the level that we hoped for and regain that throughout the rest of the season. So we'll see how it develops.
Yeah, as Coach Ferentz said, they're in a much better place at quarterback because of Brendan than they were last year. So it's nice to have a proven winner as a backup. Let's talk a little bit about Tim Lester's offense, Scott, and what you expect to see Saturday.
I expect to see a lot of motion. I mean, this is a team that Iowa didn't use a lot of motion. One of the one of the least used motion offenses in the country the last couple of years. Now he incorporates a lot of that. And I think this is really good for what they do offensively, which is a lot of zone running. Now that instead of being able to try to cut block people, they can use the motion to create some kind of issues on the defense of the second and third levels and enable that offensive line to move. I think it's going to be things that there'll be subtle changes for the fans, but I think people who really watch it will say, wow, this is completely different.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think, too, I want to see the physicality of this offensive line. I want to see these guys start pushing the defense backwards, opening up some creases for these talented running backs. I know we'll get to that, to be able to run through some gaping holes and really see what this offense can do. And I think this is what I'm hoping we'll get from this Iowa offense.
Caleb Brown, we didn't mention him, also suspended for the first game, arguably their best receiver. That makes a difference, too.
Yeah, it does, for sure. And he came on strong late last year. We see the talent. He's built for this offense because there's going to be some short passes
he's
to go
great
along with the
running with the ball after catch.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to be a challenge. You would have loved to have seen him get out there and work against Illinois State before he plays Iowa State, but his own discretion cost him that first game. All
right, let's talk a little bit about the tight ends and wide receivers that Cade will have to throw to. I mean, it all starts with one of the best tight ends in college football, Luke Lachey.
Luke Lachey is the next in line, and when you look skill set, he's every bit as good as all the others, his predecessors, who are now making millions in the NFL. He's a little bit taller, he's really athletic, and he can catch the ball, and now he can block, too, at 255, 60 pounds.
Yeah, at 6'7", to be able to run down the seam and make that catch with your hands like that, that is a talent, Lou. He's good.
Yeah, it really is, and I think it provides another weapon for Iowa to really utilize, and this is where I think he's really going to help Cade out a lot of times because he's easy to see. You can look down the field. You got a big, tall tight end there, and again, this speaks to what the quality of our tight end university tight end U
Yeah.
is what we're being able to develop year after year after year, and I think we got another one right in line.
And that's Caden Weegan right there that we saw from Williamsburg, Iowa. He's going to get the start at wide receiver, and he's pretty talented, and he could break some big plays, Scott.
Yeah, he can. He's going to be a really important piece here. I
Yeah.
think he's going to do a lot of the motioning, and which means he's going to get some jet sweeps. He's going to get some swing passes, which Iowa really has not done much of in the past. You know, get the ball out on the perimeter to your players in space and let them do something. I think that's really built well for Caden Weegan. And then I like some of the other receivers.
Yeah,
Scott.
they got two other new starters that you might not know about.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jarrett Bell, it looks like he's going to be a guy long-term. Reese Vanderzee, a true freshman, makes the depth chart. Really big, athletic guy. And then don't sleep on Gill.
Yeah.
And because he comes from Northwestern. He's already a graduate in 3 years.
They like him.
And he is tough. You talk to the offensive lineman, he's their favorite player because he will block somebody 15 to 20 yards down the field.
And really, that's what they've missed a big target, and that's what they've got to get back to, having some big targets with the smaller guys.
Yeah. Get the ball to your guys in space, and then have somebody who can win one-on-one matchups outside. If you can bring that up a little bit, this offense is so much better.
All right, let's move to running back. Kamari Moulton listed number 1 on the depth chart today. Obviously, LaShawn Williams has been injured. Caleb Johnson also on that depth chart. So they got 3 backs right there that we just mentioned that can all play.
Yeah, these guys can shake and bake, and I love watching these running backs when they get out in space. You know, you got 3 different types of looks that you're going to get from each one of these running backs, and I think when they get out in the open, particularly one-on-one, you're going to see a lot of shaking and baking from these guys. They're tough. They run low. They get their pads down, and you know, again, I love watching the running back position. I personally like to see them use the fullback a lot more, just personally, but they don't ever use the fullback anymore, right?
Hayden Large. Hayden Large. You got to like the name Hayden Large.
Yes,
fullback,
that's right.
It's perfect for an Iowa fullback. But, you know, Kamari Moulton is a guy that everybody really needs to keep eyes on. I mean, last year I looked at him the first time and I thought he looks like an AAU point guard. You know, he's like 5'10", 170, and looks like he's 16 years old, like he hasn't shaved yet. Then he puts on 30 pounds.
He looks big.
You can see it all waist down. And the thing I love about him is his quickness in the hole, the burst, and his foot movement. He's going to be, I mean, there's a reason why he's number 1, because he went past 3 other guys
that were great players,
that are very good players, and he's got the skill set that's probably a separator.
Tim Lester thinks that maybe he fits pretty good in his offense too.
Oh yeah, and you look at all of them. I mean, you know, Caleb Johnson, long, physical, reminds me of Larry Johnson, who played 20 years ago at Penn State, and LaShawn Williams. I mean, he's just a hammer. You know, great, just inside zone.
It's nice to have 3 guys that they can rotate into that are quality players. It all comes down to the offensive line. And what I noticed watching them, especially in the kids' day, much bigger, much more physical, Scott.
They are healthy. And you could tell that this is the point that they need to get. Iowa always, for offensive line, get to this maturation point. They're veteran. They have 151 career starts. Last year, you've got Mason Richmond playing with a broken leg. You've got Logan Jones on a high ankle sprain. They're trying their best. This offense, the scheme will allow them to do what they do. Connor Colby, I think, could be in that All-American discussion while the season's ending.
Yeah, you remember back when Coach Ferentz first started, they had the young, small offensive linemen, and what happened to them when they became seniors, that group with Robert Gallery. This kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
They had 3 tight ends, you know, that all became offensive linemen, all earned All-American honors. Not saying they're all going to be in that category, but, Scott, I think this is going to be the best offensive line we've seen since maybe the 16 season.
So you like offensive linemen too, right? If you like fullbacks, you like offensive linemen.
Yeah, well, you know, you got to love your linemen.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys are in the trenches. They make our jobs a lot easier. And there's not a lineman that I've met that I didn't love, okay?
So you rushed for over 1,000 yards at Iowa, all Big Ten, honorable mention. So you got to carry the ball and you got to block. What'd you like better?
Well, ironically, I actually like blocking a lot better.
Yeah.
When you hit a guy and you see him just
their eyes roll in the back of their head.
Roll in the back of their head. And then on Sundays when you watch the film, you're sitting there and you're like, watch this, rewind it, coach. Watch this, right?
Snot bubbles. I can see snot bubbles.
So it's fun. It was being a running back, and I can speak a lot about that just because, not only because I played it, but because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be able to block. I know what it's like to be able to run and catch the ball out of the backfield. And these young men, I think they have all three of those tremendous characteristics. It'll be interesting to see how they play this season.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk some defense on Iowa Live.